All Coronation Street spoilers for subsequent week as legend disappears. Coronation Street is lining up a massive week for the more youthful Weatherfield residents, as Audie Allahan*'s celebration is going awry. When Brodie Michaelis brings LSD to the celebration, 3 attendees get their arms at the drugs, consisting of Nina Lucas and Summer Spellman. Something disastrous happens, and the ladies are left thinking whether or not to file the incident to the police. Kid Green asks for a statement. However, his private and expert lives ought to quickly collide yet again whilst he learns Brodie is his son. Debbie Webster additionally unearths herself down on the cop shop. However, what has happened? Elsewhere, Steve McDonald makes matters respectable with Cassie Plummer, and Todd Grimshaw unearths himself on the incorrect facet of Millie Silverton yet again. Plus, Maria Connor is worried whilst husband Gary Windass doesn't "go back from his journey to Durham." Is he okay? Here "SA have a take a observe subsequent week in the street. Monday, June 23. Bernie shows to Audie that he throw a celebration in Dev"'s absence, and he invitations all the neighborhood youngsters. Carla asks Betsy to success up the factory. However, she quickly receives into the celebrations with Brodie, Dylan and Lauren and forgets to show the key. Brodie produces a bottle of LSD, telling Dylan that he "going to apply the bash to scout for capacity customers." However, while Audie reveals out, he "livid" and throws him out. More distracted via way of means of seeking to woo Amy, he leaves his percentage of the medication with Summer and Nina, who knock their elements back, blind to the results with a purpose to follow. But in which has his drink gone? Audie comes from upstairs simplest to understand a person else has took it. And Lauren rushes out feeling unwell. Is she high? Later withinside the evening, Nina and Summer permit themselves into the darkened cafe and shortly emerge as spooked via way of means of the sound of sirens. Elsewhere, Kit famous to Bernie that the DNA check has showed he Brodie dad. But will he preserve the revelation to himself? Wednesday, June 25. Summer and Nina retrace their steps from the nighttime before, discussing the incident they witnessed at the nighttime of the celebration and agreeing to preserve quiet. Bernie apologizes to Audie and Asha for Brodie"'s behavior, even as a person"'s circumstance deteriorates after by accident taking LSD. Kid tells Audie that he "LL should make an announcement down on the station." However, will he inform the truth? Elsewhere, Debbie calls Kevin and makes out that she "staying at a spa inn to clean her head." However, she "simply on the police station." Abby "the only who is going and collects her. However, what has happened? Across the cobbles, Steve palms the divorce papers to Tracy, as she paperwork a plan for his birthday. Cassie spoils Steve, however, as she pulls him in for a kiss. He "summoned to the Rovers." He has no concept that Tracy has organized birthday beverages and has no intentions of discussing the give-up in their marriage. Steve Speedy makes his excuses and leaves, together along with her quickly following to discover him in Cassie"'s arms. Plus, Kit comes smooth to Sarah approximately Brodie"'s paternity. And Liam tells Maria that Gary isn't answering his calls following his go to look Anna in Durham. Where is he? Friday, June 27. Nina confesses to her Uncle Roy that she took hallucinogenic pills on the party, and opens up approximately the activities she will be able to keep in mind from the night. Roy urges her to visit the police. Boosted through Carl"'s words, Ronnie gives Debbie with a bottle of champers and hopes that they could reconcile. She refuses to known his proposal, admitting that she nonetheless deeply in love with him. However, she desires him to discover happiness with a person he can develop vintage with. Elsewhere, James tells Todd that he turn out to be a non-public trainer. And Theo is truly jealous. Millie comes to a decision to shape a plan, telling Todd that she booked him in for a PT consultation to apologize for her current behavior. Will he recognize that she set him up? Later, He sees the youngsterager swigging from a can of lager. Notwithstanding being pregnant, she starts him now no longer to inform her father. Plus, Maria is relieved to get a message from Gary, telling her he s with a mate and might be domestic soon. Plus Steve kisses Cassie and says he doesn't care what everybody else thinks approximately their relationship. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more movie spoilers next week. Goodbye and see you again.